Greetings, my lovelies. This is Blake here, and welcome to my review of Crimson Peak. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of time to talk about this movie, so expect this video to be pretty short. I postponed this vlog way too long. I should have had it up 2 days ago. But I was so burnt out on Crimson Peak because of my written review that I just didn't want to deal with it. My written review was a train wreck. I just spent the entire day writing it, and I was not pleased with the final result. I just thought my critique was kind of shallow. I felt like I barely scratched beneath the surface, so I just kept putting it off until now. So not a whole lot for me to say here. I thought Crimson Peak was okay. I enjoyed it, even though it definitely fell beneath my expectations. I knew going in that this was not a real horror flick, that, you know, Del Toro had described this as a Gothic romance. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there was a time when horror would not fit our definition of horror today. When you look at, you know, the original 1930s The Mummy, or, you know, even throughout the 60s, you'd have Premature Burial, or The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll. You know, those were films that were more drama that just happened to be surrounded with Gothic atmosphere than they were horror films. And this is sort of the same thing. And I was okay with that. And you could tell that Del Toro understood the genre he was homaging, because there'd be certain quirks that just kind of made me laugh. For example, how, you know, the protagonist, Edith, immediately falls in love with the mysterious Tom Hiddleston character. That's something that you would have seen in a lot of these movies, where they just suddenly become a pair. And so that kind of made me laugh. And, you know, the fact that there's a third wheel where this doctor is also in love with her, and we know that he's ultimately only here so he could save the day at the end. A lot of old horror movies that also had that exact same trope, and it's just as cliche. And unfortunately, I think that's the main problem with Crimson Peak, is that it's just completely comprised of cliches. Now, visually, the film is stunning. I would say that Crimson Peak boasts the most eye-popping imagery of anything to be released in 2015, at least that I've seen, and that includes Mad Max. I thought the sets were just awesome. You could tell that a lot of money and time went into constructing them. I thought the surreal lighting really just added a unique flavor to this movie, which it desperately needed. It reminded me a lot of, you know, vintage Argento or Mario Bava. And I've always liked that style of lighting. And, you know, it just had that really cool Gothic atmosphere. And there are so many shots that just stay with you. You know, Del Toro, for all the problems I have with Del Toro as a writer for this movie, you know, he definitely excelled as the director. And he even made the CGI ghosts kind of creepy. I mean, granted, I still think CGI and horror don't really get along too well. That's one of my big concerns in regards to the upcoming Paranormal Activity movie. It just looks so odd to me. But this was about as good as you can do it. I thought the designs of these ghosts were pretty, you know, bizarre and unsettling. And, you know, every shot is so immaculately planned that he can actually, you know, build up some dread, some suspense using these creatures. The acting's pretty good. The character writing isn't bad. I will say that I actually thought the script was not poorly written, even if it seemed to lack inspiration. Whenever a character does something stupid, I understood usually. I understood why they, you know, did that stupid thing. You know, it wasn't like I was ever taken out of the movie. Well, I take that back. There is one part where a character gets stabbed closer to the end where it's like, you did not see that coming, seriously? That was pretty dumb. But other than that, I was perfectly fine with the plot-induced stupidity. I actually thought the romance was kind of sweet in parts, and even though I really do hate these kinds of love stories where, you know, they meet and immediately fall in love, this film at least draws attention to that impulsive decision on her part to just suddenly marry this guy she barely knew. It's constantly criticizing her decision. So that didn't bother me, and I actually thought she and Hiddleston had decent chemistry. The best actress, easily Jessica Chastain, is that how you pronounce her name? However, I do think that she was underused. I was hoping that there'd be more banter between her and Edith, because both are strong-willed women who definitely have a certain amount of wit. But unfortunately, Edith always acts so demure around her that it just felt like a wasted opportunity. And that leads to one of my bigger problems with Crimson Peak. I didn't like the actress who played Edith throughout the second half of the movie. I thought she was fine for the most part. You know, she sold me on being, you know, love struck. She sold me on being, you know, a strong woman who was kind of rebelling against what you expect women to be at that time. That was all well acted by her, but she didn't convey fear very well to me. And at first, I was fine with how she was reacting to the ghosts, but like once she realizes that she is in serious danger, that her husband is probably not the nicest guy she imagined him to be, that the sister's even worse, and she's openly suspecting that the sister's up to something sinister. She never really seems that furious or frightened. And that did take me out of the movie, because if she's not scared, why should I be? So that just kind of deflated the suspense. She just has that same, you know, furrowed brow look where she just kind of looks mildly annoyed or cranky. And you know, as she's learning this horrible stuff, these dark secrets of this family that she's married into, you're not getting any reaction from her. She's just kind of taking it all in stride, and that just made me very detached from this character. But really, the worst aspect of Crimson Peak is this, that you predict every single twist coming within like the first 15 minutes, because it's just relying on past formulas and cliches. You've seen this story done many times before. For the most part, it plays out as, you know, this girl meets the perfect guy, gets married to him, and it turns out he's not the guy she thought he was. And she starts wondering, you know, is he dangerous? Is he going to kill me? And why is he going to kill me? You know, that's a very familiar scenario. The fact that you throw in ghosts in there who appear to be warning her of the danger, I've seen this a million times too. And unfortunately, Crimson Peak never really feels the need to add anything new to the formula. You could argue that there's one twist near the end that's supposed to be shocking, but even then, you could tell where they're going almost immediately with this. And so I wasn't shocked. And it's like, at times, I felt like Del Toro even knew that this wasn't going to catch anybody off guard, because certain parts are telegraphed. You do see the father murdered, and you see a figure, and that you kind of can guess who it is just based on that. The fact that you could tell from their body type and that they're hiding their face, you know who's going to be the person who did this. So it's like, why did they even need to include that? Wouldn't it have been more mysterious if you did not see the father die, if you just kind of see him look a little scared, you know, panning out, then you hear him kind of cry out and fall? That would have been much more interesting, in my opinion. But this film is just way too predictable for its own good. And when you can guess every single thing this movie has to offer that quickly, then you're just waiting for the rest of the story to catch up to you. In my opinion, the best storylines, you're always behind them. You're always like trying to keep up, and you're really invested in it. And here, it's just like seen it movie. You're not fooling anybody. I know what's going to happen, and it's, you know, people gave the Wolfman remake crap, but at least like it played the nostalgia card, much like Crimson Peak does. Definitely reuses a lot of the cliches, and it is definitely a remake, but it's also its own movie. It incorporates its own ideas or expands on, ideas that the original movie had. So it is a very different film, even though, yeah, it is definitely a remake of The Wolfman. Here, it's not really incorporating any new ideas. It's at times sort of deconstructing certain cliches, but it's doing so very softly, so that doesn't really stand out as much as it should. I suspect that a lot of this movie was probably cut out. Crimson Peak probably would have had a much smoother flow if it was closer to like 3 hours. That may have made the movie worse. But like the second half, that's when all the good stuff starts happening, the action. It's still... you feel like the characters have become props in order to push this storyline, which already isn't very good, and they no longer feel like real characters. But still, the film is really nice to look at. I love the creativity behind the visuals, such as using the red clay, occasionally that the house is sinking into very slowly, so occasionally it'll seep through the floor, or you'll see it running down the walls. And once you get the snow in there, a very interesting contrasting colors, but once again, very eye-popping. The visuals definitely are amazing. But some viewers, or a lot of viewers, they need more than that. They can't just enjoy the eye candy. They need a certain amount of substance. They need a strong screenplay. And the script for Crimson Peak is kind of underwhelming. So even though I was okay with it, and I also will say that I thought it was pretty fast-paced for its kind of movie, you really have to consider the things that are being said about it and decide whether or not it's for you. If this still sounds appealing to you, then definitely check it out in theaters. That's where you're going to get the best experience in viewing these visuals. But if you're not really sure, or maybe you're beginning to suspect that perhaps Crimson Peak just isn't really worth paying that much money for, then yeah, just wait till DVD. So yeah, not as good as it should have been, but not bad. Read my written review if you want, even though I think it sucks. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. I got shave as soon as I'm done with this video, and then I'll start filming Critiquing the Critics again. And I shall see you guys later. Oh, what else have I done? I got to do another Attack on Titan vlog coming up soon, so I'll just look up my other written reviews there. Bye.